I'm a Romani academic and I'm a feminist, and one of the things that, as I began to read Romani history, Holocaust history, I realized that the voices of Romani women weren't really part of the narrative. And I think for me the challenge was really trying to figure out how we can get those voices, but also how do we then listen and understand what people are saying. And so for me, it was testimony and oral history that became one way of really understanding and opening up questions that Romani women may be able to answer, or issues that they can, to be able to discuss that may not be part of dominant narratives. I think it's really key because coming out of something such as the Holocaust, right, the Roma genocide, genocide in general, or war, there are things that we don't always recognize that are everyday aspects of war and of trauma, of suffering, but also perhaps the kind of, trying to think. So there are everyday kinds of ways of being in war that are not really documented that much. And Romani narratives, where they move between sort of discussing history, talking about history, telling their experiences, but then, moving into talking about songs in the camps or poetry, really, I think, open up the dominant history so that they're not just about men, or they're not just from a perpetrator's point of view, but actually really understanding what survivors themselves can say about history, about the Holocaust, about the long-term effects of war, and about what it means to try to build one's life in its aftermath. There's not ever been a re-education program for people in government, for officials, but for everyday people around Roma and Sinti histories. And so they were sent to the camps on racial grounds, but also treated as outsiders, as criminals, as non-human. Upon return, those same narratives seem to dominate. And I think, key, for example, is, the history of forced sterilization. So you had sterilization in the camps and in places of deportation, but then throughout history, in the last 10 years, we've seen survivors of forced sterilization from the 1990s, from the 2000s, who have come out to tell their stories as well. So in a lot of ways, Europe and the world really hasn't been re-educated, hasn't been sort of free of oppression or come to a point of liberation for its Roma and Sinti citizens.
Thank you, May.
Thank you so much.